I still remember that moment like a punch to the heart. During our family trip, my daughter-in-law snapped at the hotel receptionist and said, "Don't talk to the old woman. She's just the help." My son laughed. She had no idea the old woman she was insulting owned the entire hotel. And what happened next left her shaking. I'm truly grateful you're here. Stay with me until the end of this story, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to see how far this message of dignity and self-worth reaches. I had been counting down the days to this trip. At 72 years old, I don't get many chances to spend time with my son, Jay, and his family. When he suggested a week in Miami, I felt like maybe, just maybe, this was my chance to finally bond with Valentina, my daughter-in-law. For 5 long years, she had kept her distance. The 4-hour drive to the Coastal Paradise Resort felt longer than ever. Jay and Valentina spent the entire ride chatting excitedly about spa treatments, afternoon tea, and luxury dinners as if I wasn't even sitting beside them. Each time I tried to join the conversation, just to feel included, Valentina would reply with a cold, short answer, and Jay would pretend he didn't hear me. The red flags were right there, waving in my face. But a mother's heart always hopes. I just wanted us to feel like a family again. What they didn't know was that the place we were going to, the Coastal Paradise Resort, was one of my proudest life achievements. After my husband passed away when Jay was only 12, life broke me in ways I didn't know I could survive. But I refused to let the darkness swallow us. I started with a tiny bed and breakfast, working 18-hour days, scrubbing floors myself, managing reservations, and serving guests with a smile even when I was exhausted to my bones. Brick by brick, year by year, I built a hotel empire, eventually owning 17 properties across 3 states. But I never told Jay. I wanted my son to love me for my heart, not my money. When our car pulled up to the entrance, pride quietly warmed my chest. The gardens were flawless, and the valets moved quickly, welcoming guests with the same hospitality standards I had personally trained them to uphold. It took 3 years to purchase Coastal Paradise, and another 2 to renovate it into a place of luxury and peace. Every marble tile, every chandelier, every flower arrangement I handpicked with love and vision. Jay handed the car keys to the valet while Valentina fixed her designer sunglasses and perfect blonde hair. She was stunning, the kind of beauty money crafts. At 35, 20 years younger than Jay, she made sure no one ever forgot it. "Remember," she told him sharply as we walked toward the doors, "I want the penthouse suite. I don't care if they say it's not available. Make sure they give it to us." Jay nodded instantly. The confident, independent boy I raised, now lived in the shadow of his wife's approval, and it broke something inside me to see it. As we entered the lobby, my heart softened for a moment at the familiar sounds, the gentle piano music, the warm welcome of staff, the atmosphere of elegance I worked so hard to build. Jasmine, the front desk manager, looked up and immediately recognized me. Her eyes widened, but I subtly shook my head. I wasn't ready for them to know who I really was, not yet. "Good afternoon, and welcome to the Coastal Paradise Resort," Jasmine greeted us warmly, her voice polished with professionalism. "How may I assist you today?" "Reservation under Carter," Jay replied confidently. "We should have the penthouse suite." I watched Jasmine's fingers glide across the keyboard as she searched. "Yes, I have your reservation here, Mr. Carter. You're booked for our Coastal Paradise Deluxe Suite. However, the penthouse is reserved for another guest during your entire stay." I saw the shift in Valentina instantly. Her smile vanished, her jaw tightened, and her eyes turned cold and sharp beneath her perfect makeup. "That's unacceptable," she snapped. "Do you know who we are? I specifically requested the penthouse when we booked." Jasmine remained composed, though I noticed her shoulders stiffen. "I apologize for the inconvenience, Mrs. Carter. The deluxe suite is beautiful, and it includes a private balcony." "I don't want to hear about some second-rate room," Valentina cut in, her voice growing louder, drawing the attention of guests nearby. "I said we want the penthouse, and I want it now." I stepped forward gently, hoping to calm her before things escalated. "Valentina, maybe we could." She spun toward me so fast and with such venom that the words caught in my throat. "Don't you dare speak," she yelled, her voice echoing against the marble walls. She pointed sharply at Jasmine. "You, whatever your name is, ignore the old woman. She's not important. She's just the help we brought with us." The lobby went silent. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. My cheeks burned as humiliation spread through me like fire. But she wasn't finished. "Don't talk to the old woman," she shrieked, stabbing a finger in my direction as if I were filth on the floor. "She's a servant. A nanny. Don't waste your professionalism on her." I stood frozen. My mouth went dry. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. In 72 years of life surviving loss, hardship, widowhood, and building myself from nothing, no one had ever spoken to me with such cruelty. And never, in front of strangers. What came next pierced deeper than all of it. Jay, my son, threw his head back and laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not a laugh to ease the tension. No, a laugh of genuine amusement, as if watching his wife publicly shred my dignity was the best entertainment he'd had in years. "Oh my God, Valentina," he said, wiping a tear from the corner of his eye. "You're terrible, but you're not wrong. Mom, just let us handle this, okay? Go sit down somewhere." It felt like someone had kicked the air out of my lungs. This was the child I raised alone. The boy I sacrificed everything for. The son for whom I worked until my hands bled, so he could have a better life. And he laughed at my humiliation. Jasmine's face went pale, sympathy, shock, and helplessness mixing in her eyes. That almost made it worse. I didn't want pity. I wanted respect, especially from my own son. Around us, phones were lifted. People whispered. Strangers were recording my humiliation, the kind of videos that go viral for entertainment. "Ma'am," Jasmine said gently, her voice soft and compassionate. "Would you like to wait in our lounge while I sort this out?" Before I could respond, Valentina let out a dramatic, exaggerated sigh. "Yes. Take the old woman somewhere she won't embarrass us anymore. And make sure someone keeps an eye on her. She tends to get lost." Jay laughed again. This time, the pain didn't just hit my heart. It cracked something inside it. Strangers stared, whispering behind their hands, and in that moment, it felt like my heart shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. I wanted to disappear, to run out of that beautiful lobby, away from my cruel daughter-in-law, away from my son, the son who once held my hand as a little boy, now laughing at my humiliation. A part of me wanted to crumble. But a small piece of the woman who built an empire from dust refused to fall. I lifted my eyes and met Jasmine's. In her gaze, I saw a silent ache and understanding. She knew exactly who I was. She knew that one word from me could end this entire scene and have Valentina escorted out so quickly her designer heels wouldn't even grace the lobby floor again. But I said nothing. Not yet. Holding on to what little dignity I had left, I picked up my small suitcase and walked toward the elevator with my spine straight even as shame pressed heavily against my back. Behind me, Valentina's shrill voice continued tearing into Jasmine, demanding the penthouse as if she owned the world. Just before the elevator doors closed, Jasmine looked at me one last time and gave a small nod, a quiet promise. "I know who you are. I'm with you. I'm waiting for your signal." Inside that elevator, rising floor by floor, I thought about the life I had built. An empire that employed more than 300 people. A name respected in business circles. A woman known not for money, but for kindness, fairness, and dignity. But in that lobby, in front of strangers and phones recording every second, I was just a helpless old woman being belittled by her daughter-in-law while her own son laughed. The numbers on the elevator climbed 5, 7, 9, 12. And with each number, something slowly shifted inside me. The pain was still there, sharp and deep. But beside it, something new started growing. Resolve. The next morning, paradise felt like punishment. My room overlooked the ocean, gentle waves brushing the sand as the sunrise painted the horizon in pinks and golds, colors that used to fill my chest with peace. But today, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped the life out of me and left only an empty shell behind. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, Valentina's venom echoed. She's just the help. And Jay's laughter, my own son's laughter, replayed until it carved new wounds in my heart. I questioned myself, wondering if I should have spoken up, if I should have protected my dignity. But deep down, I knew the truth. The problem wasn't silence. The problem was that my own family did not see my worth. A soft knock pulled me from my thoughts. When I opened the door, Jay stood there. He looked slightly uncomfortable, but not sorry. Not even close. "Mom, we're going to breakfast," he said casually, as if nothing had happened. "Valentina wants you to watch the kids by the pool afterwards so we can hit the spa." Something in me finally snapped. No. Just one word, firm, calm, and heavier than stone. And for the first time in years, I saw confusion flicker in his eyes. "Good morning." That was all Jay said, as if last night's humiliation had never happened. "No. How did you sleep?" he added casually, as if we were two strangers making small talk in a hotel lobby. Not a single word about the scene in front of all those people. No acknowledgement of the pain. Just another order wrapped like a favor. "Jay," I said quietly, gathering what little strength I had. "About last night." He cut me off with a careless wave of his hand. "Mom, don't make a big deal out of it. Valentina was just stressed about the room. You know how she gets when things don't go her way." "A big deal?" His wife publicly screaming at me, calling me a servant, stripping away my dignity in front of strangers, and to him, it was nothing. "She called me a servant, Jay," I whispered, feeling the ache return to my chest. "She humiliated me in front of everyone." He shifted, eyes darting away from mine like a guilty child avoiding punishment. "She didn't mean it. That's just Valentina being dramatic. Can we not talk about it? We're supposed to be on vacation." I studied his face, searching desperately for the little boy I once knew. The boy who crawled into my bed during thunderstorms. The boy who picked dandelions and called them sunflowers because he thought they were prettier. The boy who once told me, "Mama, you're the strongest person in the whole world." That little boy was gone. Standing before me was a 47-year-old man who chose his wife's comfort over his mother's dignity. "Okay," I said softly. The word tasted bitter, like ash. "I'll watch the kids." His relief was instant, almost eager. "Perfect. We'll probably be gone all day, spa first, then lunch, maybe some shopping." "That's fine, right?" No, it wasn't fine. I had imagined this trip as a chance to bond as a family, to hold my grandchildren, to laugh, to feel like I belonged. Instead, I was being assigned the role of an unpaid nanny. But I nodded. Because I had learned long ago, sometimes keeping the peace is easier than speaking the truth. The dining room was full of vacationers enjoying breakfast, sunlight pouring through the windows. Valentina, of course, had claimed the best table in the entire room, the one with the ocean view, as if she owned the place. She was already giving orders before I even reached the table. "I want fresh squeezed orange juice, not that bottled junk," she snapped at the waiter, Terrell, a young man I remembered for his kindness and professionalism. "And make sure the eggs are cooked exactly 3 minutes." "Exactly. Not more, not less." I could see the tension in Terrell's jaw, despite his polite smile. Even the best trained staff were running out of patience with her. My grandchildren, Zuri and Deshawn, just 8 and 10, sat silently with their tablets, their little faces lit by screens instead of sunlight. They barely looked up when I arrived. "Good morning, sweetheart," I said gently, brushing a loose curl away from Zuri's face. Before my fingers even reached her hair, Valentina's hand shot out like a striking snake. "Don't touch her. She just had her hair styled yesterday. I don't want it ruined." I pulled my hand back as if I had touched fire. Zuri didn't even look up. Kids, say good morning to Grandma Renee, Jay muttered without looking away from his phone. Morning, they chimed flatly, eyes glued to their screens, their voices emotionless. I sat in the only seat left, the one facing away from the beautiful view. Valentina had placed herself and her children where the sunlight hit perfectly, as if arranging a portrait. I was placed behind them, like an extra. Renee, she said, still not looking at me, after breakfast, you'll take the kids to the pool. Sunscreen every hour. Zuri burns easily, and if she turns even slightly pink, I'm holding you responsible. I swallowed the words rising in my throat and nodded. And keep them away from the deep end. And no snacks, preservatives. If they need anything, call me immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. Each instruction sliced through me, another reminder that in her eyes, I wasn't a grandmother. Just the help. How long will you be at the spa? I asked. She finally met my eyes, hers cold and sharp. As long as we want. This is our vacation, not yours. You're here to help. Jay remained silent, scrolling through his phone, absent as if none of this involved him. When did my son become a man who could watch his wife treat his mother like a hired servant, and say nothing? After breakfast, I sat by the pool with Zuri and Deshawn, trying to start conversations they barely responded to, their attention locked on their screens. Around us, families played in the water, laughed together, made memories that would warm their hearts for years. We looked like strangers who happened to share a table. Grandma? Zuri said suddenly. My heart fluttered, hoping foolishly that she wanted to talk to me, maybe ask for a story or a hug. Yes, sweetheart? I said, leaning toward her, grateful. She didn't look up. Mom says you used to clean houses for rich people. Is that true? Her words slapped me harder than Valentina's insults ever could. No, I had never cleaned houses for anyone. I had built them. I built my empire from nothing, not inherited, not gifted, earned. I created jobs for hundreds of families. I fought my way into a male-dominated industry and earned respect that many said I would never receive. I had spent a lifetime proving that I was capable, intelligent, and unstoppable. And yet, in Valentina's twisted little story, I was reduced to nothing more than a servant. No, sweetheart, I whispered gently, forcing a smile that held back a storm of pain. I'm not a house cleaner. I'm a business owner. I build hotels. For the first time that morning, Deshawn lifted his eyes from his tablet. Mom says you pretend to be important because you were poor, and you're embarrassed about it. His words hit me harder than anything Valentina had ever said. It stole my breath, it shattered something inside me. She hadn't just insulted me, she had poisoned her children, my grandchildren, to see me as a joke, a liar, a nobody. Your grandma is not poor, and she does not make up stories, I replied, steady but shaking on the inside. Zuri barely shrugged. Well, that's what Mom says. She says you live in a tiny apartment and pretend you're rich to feel better. A tiny apartment? If only they knew that my tiny apartment was a penthouse overlooking the bay, worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. But what broke me wasn't the lie, it was that my grandchildren believed it. For the next 6 hours, I sat by that pool watching two children who barely looked up at me, while their parents enjoyed their day, at my expense. A few guests tried to chat, I responded politely, but inside, I was hollow, shrinking with every minute that passed. I had never felt so unseen. When Jay and Valentina finally returned, they looked like they had stepped out of a luxury magazine, glowing after spa treatments and a 5-star lunch. Valentina's nails were fresh, her hair flawless, pampered at my spa, paid for with my money. How were the kids? Jay asked, eyes glued to his phone. They were fine, I said. What was I supposed to say? That they saw me as a liar? That their mother had destroyed the bond one dreamed of having with them? Good, Valentina replied with a dismissive wave. You'll watch them again tomorrow. We have golf in the morning and lunch with some friends from the spa. I watched my son, my only child, nod along to her plans like a trained employee. Not once did he ask if I wanted to rest, to enjoy, To live a moment of the vacation I was paying for. That night, I sat alone in my room, the room I had earned through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. I stared at the ocean, the waves crashing against the shore, and for the first time, I saw the truth without sugarcoating it. This wasn't a family vacation. This was a transaction. I wasn't the mother. I wasn't the grandmother. I was the help, except unpaid, unappreciated, and funding the privilege of being disrespected. But somewhere in the silence of that night, something shifted. The pain was still there, deep, raw, suffocating, but now it stood beside something stronger. Anger. Not petty anger, but the kind that comes from betrayal. From being used. From being treated as nothing, when you built everything. By the time I closed my eyes, I had made a decision. Tomorrow, everything would change. They were getting ready to leave when I overheard Valentina on the phone, using that fake sugary voice she pulled out whenever she thought she was being clever. "No, we can't do dinner again tonight. I'm stuck with the kids." "I know, it's ridiculous, but only for a few more days. Trust me, once this is all sorted out, we won't have to deal with this anymore." Her last words sent a cold, unsettling chill through my body. Sorted out? She didn't sound like she was talking about a vacation ending, she sounded like she was talking about me. Once they left, I took the children to the hotel's kids club, something I had personally created years ago so families could relax during their stay. The counselors welcomed little Zuri and Deshawn with warmth, and for the first time since we arrived, I saw them laugh, really laugh, playing freely with other children. The sight filled me with a tiny spark of joy, one I hadn't felt in days. With a few hours to myself, I walked around the resort. It had been years since I'd seen my own hotel through the eyes of a guest, not as the owner constantly fixing, improving, and supervising. I wanted to truly feel what my guests experienced. And that's when everything changed. As I passed the pool bar, voices whispered from behind one of the private cabanas. I recognized them instantly. Jay and Valentina. They were supposed to be touring vineyards, yet here they were, hidden behind curtains, speaking in low, secretive tones with another couple I didn't recognize. Valentina scoffed, her voice dripping with cruelty. "The thing is, she's getting old. And old people don't last forever, if you know what I mean." The unknown woman giggled. "Valentina, that's awful." "Not awful," Valentina replied coldly. "Practical. Jay's an only child, so eventually, we inherit everything. The question is just, how long do we have to wait?" My breath froze. I inched closer, hiding behind a palm tree, praying I had misheard. The unfamiliar man asked, "Doesn't Mrs. Renee have her own money?" Then I heard my son's voice, the same voice I once trusted more than anyone in the world. He laughed. "My mom? No, she's broke. Poor as a church mouse. She lives in a tiny apartment surviving on Social Security. I've been supporting her for years." The lies rolled off his tongue so smoothly, like he had rehearsed them. In reality, I lived in a $5 million penthouse, earning more each month from my investments than most people earn in a year. But in my son's story, I was a burden he was forced to carry. Valentina clicked her tongue with disgust. "This trip is so annoying because we have to drag her everywhere. She can't afford anything on her own. It's like having a pathetic pet you can't get rid of." A fake sympathetic gasp followed. "Oh, how awful for you. And I bet she thinks you'll care for her when she's old and sick." Valentina snorted. "Over my dead body. The moment she needs real care, we're throwing her into a government facility. I'm not turning my home into a nursing center for some useless old woman." My knees weakened. They weren't just waiting for me to die. They were planning to discard me the second I became inconvenient. But nothing could have prepared me for Jay's next words. He chuckled, amused. "The funniest part is that she still thinks she's important. She tells these delusional stories about owning businesses and being successful. It's embarrassing." "Early dementia?" the unknown man asked. "Maybe," Jay shrugged. Or maybe she just can't accept that her life amounted to nothing. She even told the kids she owns hotels. Hotels? Can you imagine? They all burst into laughter, and every sound sliced through me like broken glass. Valentina sighed dramatically. Don't worry. We won't have to hear her pathetic fantasy stories for long. 5 years tops, 10 if we're unlucky, and then we'll finally be free. A useless old woman who never did anything with her life. I stood behind that palm tree, feeling my heart crack into pieces I knew would never fit together again. This wasn't just a cruel conversation about an inconvenient relative. No, this was my own son and his wife casually discussing my death as if it were a long-awaited vacation they couldn't wait to enjoy. Valentina giggled, swirling her drink. The best part is, she's so grateful for any attention we give her. Like this trip? She actually thinks we invited her because we wanted her here. She has no idea the only reason we brought her was to babysit the kids so we could have fun. More laughter. More poison disguised as jokes. The other woman leaned in, curious. Does she at least contribute to expenses, Brenda? Valentina snorted. Her? Please. She's completely useless when it comes to money. Jay pays for everything, her food, her bills, even this trip. She's nothing but a financial burden. Another lie. A vicious, deliberate lie. For years, I had quietly supported Jay, paying part of his mortgage, covering his children's private school fees, even funding Valentina's endless shopping sprees. Those credit card bills were shocking, but I paid every one with love, believing I was helping my family build a better life. Jay chuckled like it was all some hilarious inside joke. The only good thing about having her around is she's basically a free nanny. She's so desperate for our approval that she'll do anything we ask. It's kind of pathetic, actually. Valentina shrugged, cruel amusement dancing in her eyes. It really is. She tries so hard to make us like her, bringing the kids expensive gifts, acting so eager to please. It's sad watching her cling to us like that. I stumbled back, one hand covering my mouth to keep the sob from escaping. The lies cut deep, but the mockery, the humiliation, that was a knife straight into my heart. This wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't even about respect. This was a complete erasure of my humanity. They weren't just using me. They were stripping me of my dignity, my identity, my legacy, and turning everything I built into a cruel joke. My mind returned to that first night in the lobby. The shame I felt. The humiliation I swallowed. At the time, I chose silence, to protect Jay from embarrassment, to avoid tearing my own family apart. But now I saw the truth so painfully clear. Jay wasn't a victim of his wife's behavior, he was an active participant. He wasn't shocked or ashamed, he was entertained. My own son enjoyed belittling me. The empire I built, the sacrifices I made, the nights I stayed awake planning a future for him. All of it reduced to nothing more than a cruel punchline. To them, I wasn't a mother, a provider, or a human being. I was an ATM. A free babysitter. A burden they could not wait to discard. And something inside me shifted. Not rage, not the fiery anger from the night before. This was colder. Heavier. Sharper. This was resolve. If they thought I was useless. If they thought I was a joke. If they believed they could disrespect me, steal from me, and erase who I was. Then they were about to learn exactly who they were dealing with. I pulled out my phone and dialed Jasmine. She answered instantly, voice filled with concern. Ma'am, thank God. I've been waiting for your call. Did you see what I sent you? My voice was steady. Controlled. Unshakable, ***. Everything is fine, Jasmine. I need you to do something for me. I walked to the kids' club and picked up Zuri and Deshawn. They barely looked up from their tablets as I took their little hands. Come on, loves, I said softly. We're going on an adventure. Their eyes lifted, confused. Mom said we have to stay here, Deshawn whispered. Well, I smiled gently, your mom was wrong. We went to the beach. For the first time in years, I set my phone and wallet aside. We built sandcastles, chased waves, collected seashells. We laughed, and I told them stories about their father when he was a little boy, the parts of him that were still innocent, still good, before the world hardened him. For a brief moment, it felt like a real family vacation. But underneath, the truth sat like a stone in my stomach. That evening, Jay and Valentina returned, sun-kissed, tipsy, and glowing from their child-free day. They barged into my room, ready to drop the kids and run off to dinner. But this time I stood blocking the door. We're heading out, Valentina said without even looking at me, her eyes fixed on the children. You can put them to bed. I smiled, calm, steady, deadly calm. Oh, I won't be going to bed just yet. She finally looked at me. I saw at the first flicker of irritation, and something else. Concern. Because she could feel it, even if she didn't understand it yet. Everything had just changed. The moment those words left my mouth, the room fell silent. You want to know what I mean? I said quietly, yet firmly. It means you will call the front desk and book a different room for tonight, because tomorrow morning, you'll be checking out. Jay and Valentina froze, staring at me as if they were looking at a stranger. Mom, what are you talking about? Jay whispered, his voice trembling. I took a deep breath. Don't pretend you don't know. I heard every word you said at the cabana. Every insult. Every lie. Valentina's face twisted with anger. So you were spying on us? You had no right to listen to a private conversation. No right? I repeated, a bitter smile forming on my lips. Valentina, I own this hotel. I have every right. And what I want is for you to leave. Their shock filled the room like thunder. I reached into my purse and handed Jay a folded document. A record of every mortgage payment, every school fee, every bill, every emergency I covered, for years. Jay's hand shook as he scanned the numbers, the truth he had never bothered to know. You paid all of this, he whispered, his voice breaking. You lied to me, he said to his wife, betrayal written across his face. Oh please. Valentina screamed, desperately clinging to her arrogance. She doesn't own this place. She's just a useless old woman who cleans houses. The door opened. Jasmine, the hotel manager, stepped in alongside security. Calm, professional, respectful. I was told there was a disturbance, she said. Tell her. Valentina shouted, pointing at me like a child caught misbehaving. Tell her she doesn't own this hotel. Jasmine looked at me. I nodded once. Mrs. Renee Carter is not only the owner of this hotel, Jasmine began gracefully. She is the sole owner of all 17 coastal paradise resorts across the United States. She is our founder, our CEO, and the reason we all have our jobs today. Valentina's face drained of all color. Her confidence evaporated. Panic took over. Jay stood motionless, the document shaking in his hand, the lies exposed, the truth undeniable. What is the meaning of this? Valentina whispered, her voice no longer sharp but terrified. It means, I said, my voice filled with a strength I had forgotten I possessed. That tomorrow morning, you will check out. And every single expense, every room service, spa visit, cocktail, meal will be charged to your credit card. You can't do this, she screamed. Oh, but I can, I replied softly. And I will. Then I turned to the boy I raised. My son. As for you, Jay. My financial support ends today. No more mortgage help, no more school fees, no more safety net. You're on your own now. His voice cracked. Mom, please, we can talk about this. There is nothing left to discuss, I said gently, but firmly. You chose to laugh at your own mother. You allowed your children to believe lies about me. You made your bed, now you will lie in it. For the first time, they truly saw me not as the weak, desperate woman they mocked, but as a mother who had finally reclaimed her dignity. That night, for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. I woke up with a calm heart, a lighter soul, and a truth that took me too long to learn. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely. Sometimes, the family you choose is far more loving than the one you're born into. Jay and Valentina thought they were teaching me a lesson when they humiliated me in that lobby. But the only lesson learned was mine. I learned that I am worth defending even if I stand alone. And once you learn your worth, everything changes. This story, based on real events, isn't being told to judge anyone, but to open eyes. Because somewhere tonight, a mother is crying in silence, inside a home she sacrificed everything to build. If you were in my place, would you stay silent to keep the peace? Or would you rise and reclaim your voice? Tell me in the comments, because sharing your story might be the candle that lights someone else's darkness. God bless every mother who loves beyond her limits.